Okay, and we are live. Welcome to A Girl in Love with Tech podcast. My name is Rachel Rabo. I'm a Microsoft Lens Student Ambassador, a Power Platform developer, and a Dynamics 365 CRM developer. And welcome to today's podcast episode. And this podcast is streamed live on YouTube, on my LinkedIn profile, and also on Twitter. So don't forget to follow and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. Our special guest for today is Tina. Hi, Tina.
Hi, Rachel. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and we are going to be talking about Tina's experience on data and also her personal experience with Microsoft technology in data because this podcast, A Girl in Love with Tech podcast, it's around Microsoft technology. So that's what our focus is going to be on today. So hi Tina, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me to the podcast. I've
Thank
listened
you.
to past episodes, so it's such an honor to be here.
Thank you very
My name is
much.
Okonwo, and I'm a data analyst at FarmBands, where I
Yeah.
work on analyzing data and extracting sentiments from them. So basically, what we're doing at FarmBands is we're
Yeah.
trying to build the ultimate fan destination for football fans and reality TV show fans in Africa. And I'm part
Okay.
of the team that's
Yeah.
actually spearheading that goal. So I'm very passionate about data analytics, data
Yeah.
storytelling, data visualization, and my goal is to actually share my story to a larger audience and help others
Yeah.
transition into data analytics seamlessly. So that's it
Yeah.
about me.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Tina is also a part of the Nigerian Power Platform community. She's part of the leadership group in the Nigerian Power Platform community. Yeah.
Thank you for adding that.
Yeah. Like you need to add all the titles on it, like drop it one by one. Yeah. And okay, the first question I have to ask you is that like how did you get started with data, with following data as a career path?
Okay, so for me, I think the very first time I heard about data was far back in 2015, but at that point in
Okay.
time, it wasn't as loud as it is now. I just left
Yeah.
school as a mathematics graduate, right? Remember, they'll tell you that as a mathematics graduate, you can work
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah. I
So
had the
I
same
started checking
experience.
out. I started
Yeah.
checking out. Oh, okay, I read mathematics. Where can I actually work? And a lot of data analytics, machine learning, data science, all those things popped up
Yeah.
then. But I wasn't really gingered to go and research about the field and check out what it
Okay.
took to actually start. Now, fast forward to 2022, when the rate for tech was actually very, very high in my own corner. I
Yeah.
started looking at what I wanted to do, but I think data was just that part. I felt like I had an alignment to because
Yeah.
I had this passion for problem solving,
Okay.
and I also had this background in mathematics. I was coming from a
Yeah.
mathematics background, right? So I
Yeah.
decided to pursue data science. And because at that point, I didn't even know the difference between data science and data analytics. I just wanted to do data. So
Yeah.
what I started doing was I wanted to do data science. So I picked up this IBM course on Coursera, IBM data
Okay.
science course, but I didn't see it through because at that point in time I had a major challenge, which was me not having a laptop, and
Yeah.
I couldn't go on. Luckily for me, Ingressive for Good came up with a data camp scholarship, and on data camp you can
Okay.
actually code on your phone and everything.
Yeah.
So I started doing that. I started using the data camp platform to learn a couple of courses, and I was building projects. I was putting it out there, and
Yeah. I saw your
four five
project then. Yeah.
4 5 months I landed my first offer, and it just happened just by me sharing my story, putting myself
Yeah.
out there. I also got a laptop offer online. So I think that was how I started my own journey into
Yeah.
data.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I think it depends on the person because not everybody is like they want to, like not everybody wants to share online like your day to day because it's not an easy task with what you mentioned.
Mhm.
By sharing your journey online, you're able to get a laptop and you are also able to get a role in data, which is amazing. So well, something I want to just point out there is that you don't have to be scared that okay, I don't know how to start this because I see a lot of persons I talk to and they're like, okay, Rachel, you're telling me to share my journey online, but I don't know how to get started with this. Just start. That's
And
what
let
it
me
is.
just mention that prior to that, I'd never used Twitter as a platform. Like
You
it was the
understand?
first time that I'd used Twitter to just come and
Yeah,
start. And for me, it was just a way to,
yeah,
re-educate myself. That was just it
yeah,
for me. It was a way for me to re-educate myself. So that was
yeah,
what I was doing. And it paid off in the long run. So that
yeah.
was it.
And it's still paying off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
No, no, that's
yeah.
true.
Yeah, it's still paying off. It's amazing. It's really, really amazing. So I want to ask a question. So how are you finding the data part? Because with you being a industrial, okay, me, I studied industrial mathematics. So I always, I always, if I want to mention mathematics, like I have to
You
put the
just think
industrial at
industrial.
the beginning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you finding the path from being a mathematics student to being a career path in data?
Okay, so the thing is, whenever somebody asks me, "Oh, what did you read?" Like as a data analyst, right? They just ask me, "What did you read?" I say mathematics. Oh, that's why you're doing data. And I tell people that
Yeah.
for me, it is not because I read mathematics. In fact, this
Yeah.
is a career path I discovered like
Yeah.
um almost 6 7 years after leaving after leaving BSc, after my BSc, and I'm discovering
Okay.
this career path. So it's not actually because of, yeah, the career, the my background actually influenced my decision, but it
Yeah.
wasn't just about the mathematics, right? But I can tell you for a fact that data is actually very, very interesting. And
Yeah.
because of the fact that I've moved across various industries just because of
Yes.
data, right? I've
Yeah.
moved from logistics to sports to
Yeah.
entertainment to e-commerce, like just moving around. That's the
Yeah. It's
beauty of data.
amazing.
That's the beauty of data. You can move
Yeah.
across different industries, just solving problems, looking for solution to,
Yes.
business problems and all of that. So I think it's actually very, very amazing for me.
Yeah, and one other great thing about data too is that data is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You might just think that okay, this thing I'm doing right now does not involve data. Whatsoever you are doing, it involves data. So data is
I tell people,
amazing. Yeah,
it's very amazing. I tell people that whenever it wants to rain or you're looking at the weather, that, oh, okay, the
yeah,
weather is looking somehow, you want to carry umbrella. It's because of the data you got from looking at the weather. That is data.
yeah,
So it's not about
yeah,
those numbers. You see, data is everywhere. It's as
yeah.
simple as that.
Yeah, I think if you check online what is data, I think one of the first definition you pick up is that data is everywhere. You're definitely going to see it online when you
Mhm.
check on your browser engine what is data. So there's one question I want to ask you is that with being in the data field, when you started your journey, what was the first tool or application you picked up?
Okay, so I would say my own journey is very weird. I came
Yeah,
from the back. Most
yeah,
people will advise you as a data professional, in fact, as a data analyst, that if you want to start your journey, start from the simplest. We call it from the known to the
yeah,
unknown. So I started from the unknown.
yeah,
I actually started with Python, and
yeah.
probably because I was coming from a STEM background, I actually found it like it was quite easy for me to assimilate and everything. I enjoyed it very, very well, and I spent a lot of time doing Python, over 4 months learning
Okay.
just Python, and then maybe Power
Yeah,
BI on the side, but I didn't really go deep into. So Python was the first tool I picked, and
yeah,
it was really, really interesting for me. It was quite an
yeah,
amazing like tool to pick up at
yeah.
that point in time when I was just, you're just starting in tech,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you decide to
gingered.
pick a coding. You decide to pick a coding tool. So
Yeah,
man, it was really interesting for me, anyways. So Python was the first tool I actually picked.
yeah, that's amazing, and I'm happy for you that it's actually it was great for you because when I started my learning journey, like when I came into tech, I think the first thing I did was attending a boot camp, and then I was trying to decide what I wanted to do, if I wanted to go into Power Platform or I wanted to go into data, and I started learning Python. Like it was,
Chased you
it
away.
was stressful. Eh?
It chased you away.
It really really chased me away because I think I what I did then that I think if I start again I'm not going to do that. I put too much pressure on myself, and I was doing the 100 days of code, and I was doing school too. I was going to night class back to back, and I also was learning Python. I was preparing for my exams during that period. So it was really, really stressful for me. I had to prepare for my exams. I had to do 100 days of code, make sure that I do something every day. It was really, really stressful. So I think that was the reason why I was one of the reasons why I was discouraged in learning Python. But hopefully I'll pick it up Later, later, later. Yeah. And you talked about Power BI. So, for our listeners that are listening, and maybe this is the first time they're hearing about Power BI. So, what is Power BI, Microsoft Power BI to you?
Okay, so as data analysts, right, there's actually the need for us to actually visualize our data, present our findings, communicate our findings. We have
Yeah,
this whole raw bunch of data, raw bunch of numbers, and we need to make sense of these particular numbers. And
yeah,
um, just like we mentioned earlier, right? Data is everywhere, and there's this
yeah,
large amount of data. But the problem out there is that most businesses don't know how to actually harness this data or convert this data into important information that they can make
yeah,
decisions with. Now, with Power BI allows you actually, connect to different data sources, right? Right?
yeah.
It allows you
Sure.
bring in your data, allows you analyze that data, visualize that data, and
Yeah,
important things that you would rarely not see in those large bunch of spreadsheets. It makes
yeah,
it very visible for you to see. Now, that is what Power BI is. So Power BI is a visualization tool that you
yes,
can use to actually carry out the business intelligence tool. You can use
yes,
to carry out analysis, visualizations, and also, extract insights, show trends and patterns that would help
yeah,
key stakeholders to make
sure.
important decisions.
Yeah, and I think there's a statement that I have listened to somebody make before, and that was that like now we're talking about data being everywhere. You don't have to be in the data analyst field to use Power BI or to understand what a data is
Mhm,
saying. Okay, let's put it in the sense that to understand what a data is saying.
mhm,
Maybe a data analyst for now creates a dashboard, and with you reading the dashboard, you can understand what is happening to your business or your organization. You
mhm.
understand? So you're actually reading data. So you don't have to be a data analyst, you don't have to be in the data field to use data. Me, I'm in the Power Platform field and I use data every day. You understand?
I
I
always
use data.
tell, I always
Yeah.
tell people that Power BI is actually not just for data analysts, but for business professionals. As long as you're
Yes.
handling data, as long as you're dealing with data, it's something that you need to know how to use. Now, it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean that your own job might be to analyze data. For some persons, they might just need to, maybe look at a particular dashboard and be monitoring what's actually going on there, right? For
Yeah.
some persons, their own job will be to actually do the number crunching, do the data crunching, the data
Yeah.
analysis and everything. So, but it's actually a very, very important tool that every
Yes.
business professional needs to actually understand how to do. That is how powerful Power
Yeah.
BI is.
Yeah, Power BI is amazing. And I think Ola recently made a post on Twitter and LinkedIn where he talked about Python coming into Power BI. So there's so many things you can do in Power BI, and Power BI has so many features. There's something you said about connecting to different data sources. You can connect to CSV file, you can collect data online, you can scrape data
Mhm.
online, you can connect it to so many different data sources. It's
Every
really, really
like a lot
amazing.
of a lot of Salesforce, Google Analytics is there's
Yeah,
so much. The capabilities of Power BI is actually a lot. It's really
yeah,
something that I think every business professional should really, really pick up. It's very important.
yeah. It's amazing. And another question I have to ask you, especially for beginners who are coming into Power BI, or they are already in their journey in Power BI, but they are finding it very difficult to start or to continue their journey. Because for me, from my own personal experience, I got into tech without having any technical background, one, and I got into tech without knowing that there were actually tech jobs out there, that there were careers apart from the normal careers I knew
Mhm.
about. You understand? So I just came into tech like, okay, I have seen what this particular tool is doing, and I'm mind blown, and I'm in love. You understand? So I attended a boot camp where I created a dashboard. The dashboard was horrible.
I think all of us had horrible dashboard at one point in our career. So that one is like excuse. We have that
Yeah.
excuse.
Yeah, the dashboard was horrible, and I actually missed out things that I needed to know. I was just learning how to build dashboards, but I was missing out on soft skills that I needed to know. to understand how to create my dashboards. Like I said, my dashboard was horrible. The colors I used was horrible. I was using I was using pie charts where I was supposed to use a different diagram. You understand? So, what are the
Mhm.
soft skills do you think that someone needs to know for Power BI or for data?
So I think if you're looking to come into data, either as a beginner or even if you're a professional, right? Some of the
Yes,
very most important soft skills that you need to pay attention to is number one is data storytelling. And the
yeah,
reason why I'm mentioning data storytelling first is because I'm using your example of like you throwing in a bunch of charts, not
yeah,
knowing the colors to use and the fonts.
yeah,
When you understand what data storytelling is, it makes it very easy for you to select the right charts. It makes it
yes,
easy to know that okay, at this point in time I should be using a red, or at this point in time I should be
yeah,
using a green to denote that this is positive, right? If you
yeah,
understand data storytelling properly, you would know that okay,
yes,
because I'm doing a time series analysis, I should use a line chart in place
okay,
of a pie chart, right?
yeah,
That is something data storytelling helps with. Another thing is you need to understand communication. Even though you are building that dashboard, you will need to actually communicate your findings to whoever that is
yeah,
going to use that particular. Your communication and presentation skills need to be solid. That is
yeah,
another
true,
soft skill that you actually need to know as a data
yeah,
analyst. For beginner data analysts, another thing that I always like to point out is collaboration. I didn't
yeah,
actually
very, very
learn
important.
I didn't learn this early enough, but if you work in an organization where there are a very large organization where there are different departments, right? You
Yeah,
need to collaborate with the marketing department, you need to collaborate with products department,
yes,
engineering, and
true,
all of that, just to be able to know their pain points before you
yeah,
actually carry out an analysis. So collaboration is also something that it's actually very, very important. Even if you are just starting out and you want to even work on projects, it's
yeah,
something you need to learn how to collaborate with probably your fellow data analysts to see how to
yes,
actually carry out and solve a problem. So I think
yeah,
these are the things I would just like to point out. So data storytelling, communication,
yeah.
and collaboration.
Collaboration. I think for the collaboration you just mentioned, there is a different experience when you are learning and when you are working.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? When you are
Totally
learning,
agree.
yeah, like when you are learning, you are just starting a particular platform or you are learning about it, you are picking it up and you don't use it on your day to day, maybe something like that. When you are working with that particular tool and when you are learning with that particular tool, it's a very, very total ball game. Because when you just mentioned collaboration now, and not having idea about, okay, I needed to learn collaboration. You understand? You need to know how to talk with your team, how to keep them updated of what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? These are a lot of things that you need to know about. And there are so many soft skills that you need to understand. You need to be able to, you mentioned communication. You need to be able to communicate what is showing on your dashboard. You need to be able to say, okay, this is what is happening here. Even with your dashboard already, like your dashboard is moving towards a story, you need to explain that, okay, this is what this dashboard is about. This
Mm-hmm.
is what is
Yeah, we
happening.
move
And
from
this is
point
what
A to point B.
you
Exactly.
understand? You understand? So coming into data is not just dashboards. It's not just building beautiful dashboards. Like Jessica will say on Twitter, it's not just it's not just building beautiful dashboards. You understand me? You need to understand what you are doing. You need to understand. You need to have soft skills because a lot of people they don't think that soft skills are very important. They think that okay, I have to just learn the technical skills. I have to learn how to code. I have to learn how to use this particular platform. I don't have to think so much about my soft skills. And I think another thing that is also important in soft skills is public speaking, being able to explain.
Mm-hmm.
And when explaining, you need to explain that people in your audience will understand you,
Can understand.
can understand. You get me? And you need to, I think there's so many things involved. You need to, when you're explaining, you need to make sure that, because when you're in a meeting right now, you're in a meeting of, okay, you mentioned marketing team, let me say HRO and engineering team. Not everybody is technical in that meeting.
Very true. Mm-hmm.
You
Very,
understand?
very true.
Not everybody is technical in that meeting. So when you're trying to explain what is happening in that dashboard, you already know your audience. You already know people that are listening to you. So why are you using technical terms to explain your dashboard? You understand?
Most times, even my experience, most times when I'm saying some things during meetings, like I get somebody
Yeah,
from the marketing team be like, "Oh, I don't understand what you're talking about. Can you? What do you mean by this? What do you
yeah,
actually mean by this?" So I'm drawn aback, and most times I end up losing my train of thoughts because you're trying to explain
yeah,
something and you've already maybe rehearsed how you want this thing to go, and somebody's
yeah,
telling you. So you have to actually pay attention to your audience. That one is
yeah.
actually very, very important. When you're dealing with technical audience, you know what to say. When you're dealing with non-technical audience, it's a different ball game entirely. So that
Yes,
one is
true.
actually very, very important.
Yeah, especially when you're talking to clients. Most clients, they don't know the technical part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to break it down. You have to just break it down and explain it in the way that even anybody that's not used to that platform, we understand what is happening. You get
Very
me?
true.
So there are so many things to learn. And if you have a question, if you are listening to this podcast, please just paste your question and ask your question. And don't forget to subscribe and follow everywhere. So another question that I want to ask you is that on Power BI, what is your personal experience working with Power BI?
Okay. If you know me very well, like if you've ever heard of, like, I'm a
Mhm.
lover girl, like I'm a Power BI lover girl.
Yeah,
I love Power BI so much, and if I could choose one tool as a data analyst to work with for the rest of my life, it has to be Power
yeah,
BI because there's so many things I can actually accomplish with Power BI.
yes,
And for me, I think Power BI is one tool I picked up. It would shock people to know that before actually taking a Power BI course, I started working with Power BI, right? I
yeah,
worked on my first dashboard just watching a video where somebody built a Power BI dashboard from start to finish. Like, I'll just go, okay,
yeah,
this is how to select visual. I select the visual. Oh, this is how to format it. Oh, this is how to bring in
yes,
shape. I was just doing all those, man. It's so easy to learn. It's so easy to
yeah,
pick up. Now, but when it comes to like the deeper aspects of Power BI, these are where you need to take courses to actually really understand. And sometimes you need to even go as far as practicing. Now,
yes.
what am I talking about? This is where I talk about DAX and then maybe
Okay.
Power BI service, managing workspaces, and all of that. That is where you need to do
Yeah,
thorough research and learn the tool properly. But Power
yeah,
BI is actually very amazing. Like, it is one tool I would recommend for anybody that's trying
yes.
to even start out. Like, it's very easy to learn. This
Yeah,
is not
Power BI
me
is amazing.
this is not me being I think for me, I enjoyed learning Power BI, maybe because I picked Python as a
Yeah,
programming tool first, but I enjoyed learning Power BI than I did with Excel. That's how, like, that's the
yeah.
difference. Like, Excel was looking so complicated and maybe a little boring. It's just that as a data analyst, you can't avoid Excel. You
Yeah,
have
you
to
can't avoid Excel. Even me,
but
I can't
I
avoid Excel too. Yeah.
Yes, I really enjoyed
Yeah,
using Power BI. Power BI is very, very easy to use. And one thing with Power BI is the more you use
yeah,
it, the more you get better at it,
yes,
right? The stage I'm at with Power BI now is not where I was like a couple of months or even a couple of years ago. That's how I mean. The
okay.
more you use it, the more you get
Yeah.
better at the
The
tool.
more
And you
you
keep
build, yeah,
you keep even learning new things about the particular tool every day. And then Microsoft wants to finish us with updates. The updates will stop coming. So there's a lot of things to learn. That's how
yeah,
amazing. So for me, Power BI has
yeah,
really, really been amazing. And
yeah,
it's actually very, very, it has been easy working with the tool. It's been just very sweet working with that tool. There's like
yeah.
this is lack of better words, but it's actually been very amazing.
Yeah, the Microsoft BI team working on Microsoft BI, they are doing a very, very amazing job. Yeah,
I can totally agree to that. Nah,
yeah.
they are like they really need to increase their salary because they are doing too much.
Yeah, they are doing amazing. I think we have a question. And the person is asking, I think where you mentioned about data science, that you wanted to go for data science, you did not understand either going for being a data analyst or a data science. So if someone has a question that, Tina, why did you choose Power BI than going for a machine learning path? Did you try machine learning?
Okay, so I actually did machine learning. I have a
Yeah.
project. I actually did machine learning, by the way. I have a project actually,
Yeah.
where I analyzed, did a model, created a model and all of that, built a model in
Yeah.
using Python and everything. But one thing I realized at the middle part of my journey, which is and it's something I always try to tell people, that
Okay.
you're starting this does not mean you might even end up there, right? I just
Yeah, true.
realized for me that I enjoyed building dashboards rather than coding, the coding aspect
Yeah.
of data analysis or data science, right? So for me,
Okay.
that was why I ended up like as a data analyst. I ended up
Yeah.
learning Power BI and moving
Yeah.
towards the data part. So for me, it was just more about what I actually enjoyed doing. And at the
Yes.
point when I wanted to start applying for jobs, right, I looked at a lot of machine learning job criteria, data science
Okay.
job criteria. There were
Yeah.
so much. It was going to take me at least 2 years, to
Yeah.
finish learning all those things I saw on those job descriptions and everything. So at
Yeah.
that point, data analysis just looked like, okay, I think this is the part. Let's just go for this. And
Yeah.
visualization was very interesting for me. So that was why I decided to go for the Power BI route than
Okay.
the machine learning route.
Yeah, 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 that's amazing. I think there's something you just mentioned that it's not where you start. I think there's a way you just put that sentence that because you start in a particular part does not mean that you have to finish there. You understand?
Mhm.
So if you are going through a particular because a lot of persons they put too much pressure on themselves and they're like, okay, they have this particular thoughts. I want to do this. And when they cannot accomplish it, they feel down. You understand? If that does not work for you, you can actually move to another part. Or if
Very
that
true.
does not interest you, you can move to another part. You understand? And I think there's a confusion that we have between being a data analyst and being a data scientist. So what do you think
Mhm.
is the major difference between a data scientist and a data analyst?
So when it comes to the data career part, right? I
Yeah,
think it's fair to say like data analytics and data science are like the very very most popular parts, right? That you see.
yeah,
Engineering is bubbling up, and
yeah,
under the data science, we still have the machine learning and the AI
yes,
engineering there. So
yeah,
one thing, when you look at the components of data analytics, right, where you see descriptive analytics,
yes,
prescriptive, and the likes, right? Now,
yeah,
there's a part that says predictive analytics. Now, I think
yeah.
this is where the data science, the machine learning, AI
They come
engineer,
in.
where they come into play, right? Where they come into
Yeah,
play. So for a
yeah,
data analyst, your work would probably stop. Data analysts still do some predictive analysis, but for data analysts, most times where your work would stop is mostly
yeah.
carrying out the analysis, trying to look for trends and patterns in the data. But as a data scientist, you
Okay.
carry that analysis
For that.
further by
Yeah,
building maybe predictive models, algorithms, and
yeah.
everything, right?
Training models.
That is
That's
training
machine
models and all of that. That is where so it's almost like the data scientists would likely do everything, but for a data
Yeah,
analyst, your work stops where the data analyst would actually
the
carry on. So what they are basically doing is, and that's why you need to really understand mathematics very well, linear algebra, calculus, and the rest when you are
yes,
deciding that you want to actually do data science, because you're going to be playing around with a lot of all those stuff.
yeah,
So I think that is the major
yeah,
difference. A lot of us don't know. Even when I started my career, I didn't know the difference between a data scientist and a data analytics and a
yeah.
data analyst. I thought that they all fell
Yeah, the
under
same
the same
thing.
umbrella. Like,
Yeah,
okay, a data scientist is also a data analyst. Like, I didn't know. But while I progressed, I started to see the difference between both of them. That, oh, you would actually need to now when it comes to tools,
okay.
right? For a data scientist, you would actually need to master Python, because that would be probably
Yes,
be the tool that you use on a day-to-day basis. But for
okay.
us, they need to know Python. For data analysts, they need to know Python is actually on a minimal level, right?
Yeah,
It's probably when you're working with a very huge chunk of data, or maybe the
yeah.
organization you use, they use
Uses
Python. That's
Python.
when you
Yeah,
need to
wanted to
see
mention that.
that
Yeah,
Python integration. So I think that's
yeah,
the major difference between the data analyst and the data scientist.
yeah. Thank you so much for that explanation. I think we have two more questions, but before that, if you have any questions, please just drop it on the comment section, and Tina will answer your questions.
I'm
Okay.
having I'm having fun.
Okay, the next question we have is that how would you How would you start if you had to start again from scratch?
I think this is actually a very interesting question. To be honest,
Yeah,
I don't think I would want to change anything, but yes,
yeah,
something I would do different, right?
okay,
I would work
yeah,
on more projects. If I had to
okay,
start again from scratch, because I feel like I don't know how, but I feel like I
yeah,
checked all the boxes, like I was doing everything right, and it paid off in the end,
yes,
right? I shared
yeah,
my journey online. I was building
yeah,
projects as I was learning. I think I had my first project in the first month of learning. I built my first
yeah,
dashboard. The second month, I built another one, and I kept on
okay,
building. Like I think I worked on three projects actually. That was just it. I wasn't
yeah.
stuck in that world of tutorials. As I was learning, I was
You were building
practicalizing.
alongside. Yeah,
That's like my major advice for anybody starting out, right? So if I had to start over again,
yeah,
I would go that route of still like I will work on more projects. Like you cannot
yeah.
even downplay the importance of projects in this career path. But projects are what will tell
No,
recruiters
at
that
all.
you can actually do the work.
Yeah,
Nobody cares about your certificate. Pardon me to mention that. Like
yeah,
in fact,
true.
there's a difference between certificates and certification. That's one thing we don't even
Yes,
clearly know. So there's a difference between certificates and certification. I'm not going to go deep
okay,
into that, but your projects actually really, really matter. So I would share my journey
yeah,
online, I would build more projects, and I'll try to network better. I don't think I was very
yeah,
good at networking because naturally no, most people would not believe, but I'm a shy person, right? I don't know how to ask
yeah,
questions. I don't
yeah,
know how to ask questions. That's my problem. And if I was starting again, I would do more asking and
of
more
course.
sharing and more
Yeah,
building. So those three things, those are the
yeah,
things I would do if I were to start over again.
yeah. It's very, very important to build. Yeah. Hi, Tina.
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm with you.
Okay, it's very
Mm.
important to build because when you are when okay, let's say in an interview, when you're in an interview and you tell the recruiter that okay, I know how to use Power BI, you're not just saying that you have this particular skill, but you are also showing them what you can do with that particular skill with the project you have
Absolutely.
built. So you are not just saying it that okay, I can do. You can mention up to 100 tools, but they want to see what you can do with that particular tool, what you can do with that particular platform. So it's very
Very
important to build projects. Apart from even on the work level, even apart from even on the interview level, it's a very good process to learn. You can't just keep reading, watching YouTube videos, watching tutorial videos, and you are not building. Why? Why are you following that loop of watching videos, reading, and nothing is happening from your end? You are not saying that, okay, I have watched this particular episode. I want to implement what has been done here. Okay, this is a particular step. This is a particular case study they worked on in this
course.
um in this
Mhm.
Okay, so I don't want to, okay, I have built what they did here. I have built the step-by-step process they did here. I want to build my own project. I want to use the knowledge I have gotten from this project, from this course. I want to use it on my own project. So you can just get data online and work on your
Very true.
project.
Mhm.
Yeah. And about like the question the person asked that, okay, how would you start if you had to start again from scratch? I would advise you to join the community. If you are in the data space, there are so many data communities online. And if you are in Nigeria, you can join the data community Africa, which is Data First. So there are so many communities online that you can join that will help you to grow. You can connect with so many people. You can do projects. When we talk about soft skills, you can collaborate with someone, collaborate with a friend, collaborate with an individual from the community to work on a project. You're already working on your soft skills. You understand? You're already working on your soft skills. You are working with someone how to build a project. Because if you are working in an organization, you're not going to be working on the data alone. You're not going to be
Mhm.
working on a solution alone. You're going to be working alongside different departments, alongside people from different departments. And also, if you are working in an organization, you have to speak, you have to explain. You have to explain what you have done. I think another thing that you can do if starting again, I will advise speaking, teaching. Because for me, the best way for me to learn is actually teaching what I know.
Teaching others. Very
You
true.
understand? Teaching
Very
others.
true.
Yeah. teaching others, no matter how, like when they advise people that okay, it's actually nice to teach others, and they're like, okay, wow, I have to teach others, meaning my knowledge has to be so high. I have to know like the beginning and end of this particular tool. That is not it. Even if it's like, let it be a very small knowledge, let it be just introduction to Power BI, and you're not showing the person how to open Power BI desktop, just an introduction to Power BI. What is Power BI? Which people can use Power BI? As simple as
Mm-hmm.
that. Or how to download Power BI, how to open Power BI desktop, how to connect to different data sources. That is already a topic already. And even me, I think there's something I know that there's something I have done so much that even when I'm sleeping, you can ask me and I'll tell you the step by step process. And that is creating a Microsoft 365 developer account. Because I've talked about it so much that when you ask me, I can tell you how the
You
step
can
by step process
exactly.
moves
Mhm.
from. You understand? So,
Teaching is very, very crucial. Like
yeah,
it helps. The benefits are, I was recently talking to some of my mentees and I told them that that is
yeah,
one way to actually reiterate what you have learned. Like it doesn't
yeah,
necessarily have to be a large crowd. It might just be even a couple of people you've maybe decided to bring together as accountability partners, and you're just trying to
yes,
teach them that this is one particular concept I've learned and I want to pass that. It would help you remember anything you teach. I don't think
yeah.
you can ever forget that. That's
You
one
can't.
thing
It's
about
like
teaching. You
it
can
gets
never
stuck to your
forget
head.
that. And whenever you
Yeah,
are teaching, you get to learn that thing again. Like maybe
yeah,
something you must have missed out when you were actually learning it. You get
yes,
to, you see that thing when you are teaching it. So I think
yeah,
teaching is actually one way to actually
yes,
grow very fast when it comes to, remembering concepts and all of that.
yeah. Yes, and I think one other thing too is like it's not really that important, but for me, I think it's very, very important. Is writing blogs, like blog posts. If you work on a project, or if you have like a GitHub repository where your project is, write a documentation of what that project is. Or maybe you worked on a particular project or a particular solution and you encountered an issue, write about it, because people out there too there's somebody out there that had the same issue
Yes,
as
that
you.
same problem. Very true.
Yeah, that's having that same problem that you did, that you were able to solve. Why not write about it so that when that person searches online, the person can get access
Mhm.
to your blog. And I think one other importance of writing blogs is that when you start working on an organization, you have to write documentation. You have to document. You understand? With your experience from writing blog posts, you can easily transfer it to
To
your
writing
writing
documentations.
to write.
I think that's what actually helped me because over the past couple
Yeah,
of weeks, I'm writing more documentations than I've written in my entire career. So I think maybe
yeah,
writing blogs, though, like I've been able to transfer that particular skill into that because
yeah,
it's something you can't even avoid. You need to actually document for anybody that is going to be actually using whatever you built or whatever you are trying to build. So
yeah,
documentation is actually very, very important.
yeah. It's very important. So if you're listening and you're thinking about how to start from scratch, you have to think about all these things. I think there's another question. Yeah. So at what point did you feel confident enough to start applying for a job?
Okay, so when it comes to job applications, it's actually very, very dicey in the sense that, like for me, I don't
Yeah,
think I can actually speak very like much on this particular topic. But here's something I will
yeah,
tell you. Because when I started out my journey, the plan for me, my goal was I was going to learn for 6 months, learn all the tools.
yeah,
By the
yeah.
6th month, I'll start applying for jobs. That was my goal.
Okay.
But
Yes.
because I was learning and I was building projects, by the 4th month, I started getting DMs of people that wanted to work with me, that they wanted to
Yeah.
interview me for a role because I was building
Yes.
those projects and I was sharing them online, right?
Yeah.
So I think the major thing, if you've learned all the tools, depending on your career path, once you learn a tool,
Yeah.
build a project. Say you're a data analyst, for example, you learn Excel, build a project. You learn
Yeah.
SQL, build a project. You learn whatever tool
Yes.
you learn, build a project. By the time you have projects that actually demonstrate your use of all these skills, that is the
Yeah.
time to start applying for jobs. That is the time because
Yeah.
when a recruiter
True.
asks you and tell you that, okay, I want you to come and analyze my data, or okay, what can you do? You're saying you can do you're not just saying I know how to use Excel. You are saying that
Yes.
this is what I've done with Excel, or this is what
Yeah.
I've done with Power BI. That is the point that you know that yes, you can actually, they actually know that yes, you understand this tool, you've worked with it. So at that
Yeah.
point where you have projects demonstrating your use of all these tools, I think that is the
Yes.
time to start applying for jobs. That's why I always
Yeah.
another thing is I always advise people, if you work on projects, don't leave them in your laptop. Come
No.
online, talk about it. My favorite places are Twitter and LinkedIn. There's no
Yeah.
way
True.
when you talk about it, you might like there's somebody looking for that problem you solved in that project. If you work on a problem solving project, somebody might
Yeah.
make, for example, you did something relating to marketing analytics, and somebody is looking
Yes.
for somebody that will solve their marketing analytics
Yeah.
problem in their
Yeah.
organization, and you've done something similar. They would easily reach out to you and be like, "Oh, I'm looking to achieve something like this in my organization. How can you
Yeah.
help?" So I think if you work on any project, share. That's one of the easiest way to actually also get opportunities, right?
Yes. Very
Share your
true.
projects online, talk about it online, write about it as well. So
Yeah.
to answer your question, in summary, just as long as you have projects that demonstrate your use of those tools, I
Platforms
think
too.
it's
Yeah.
time to start applying for jobs.
Yeah. I think from my end it was with applying for job. I'm not actually in the data space. It's on Microsoft Power Platform. Applying for job, I was really, really scared to start applying for jobs. I actually reached out to someone, then I was like, okay, do you think that I've gotten to this point in my career or in my learning path? Do you think I should start applying for roles? She was like, okay, go ahead, apply for roles. I was like, my heart was still cutting, like, okay, if I apply for this role, what am I going to say? I don't have experience with interviews. I don't know what to when they start asking me questions, I don't know what to say on the interviews, you understand? I had projects. I had a lot of projects. I was working on a lot of projects. You understand? But I was still scared with applying for jobs. So with what Tina has said, what actually helped me then was me talking about projects I have built, talking about the things I am doing, documenting, writing blog posts of what I have done. You understand? And it actually
Mhm.
created a lot of opportunities for me. You get, and we are trying to apply for when you're trying to apply for roles, you need to be ready for it. You need to be ready to the company. If you applied for a role in a company, and okay, let's say before getting to that particular point, you are before applying to a particular role, you need to make sure that the job description at least you know 50% of it, because when you get a job you have to learn. If you know everything, if you know how to use every particular tool in that role, what is the need of coming in? Because you're not going to learn anything. It's going to be a day by day process, something you already know already. It's not going to make you grow. You have to check the job description. Okay, what is this particular role asking for? That is one. You have to check what that particular role is asking for. And then the next thing you need to do, you need to reach out. I see a lot of persons who write these things online. You need to reach out to either someone working in that company, you need to reach out to somebody working in that company, or you need to reach out to the person who has posted that particular job
Yeah.
role and tell them that, okay, I'm interested in this job role. Then you can discuss about it and apply for the job. You understand? I think it gives you more chances. At least it creates like a small opportunity for you. And you also need to be confident. You need to be very, very confident. When at least me, when I started my journey, I had this saying that I was always ringing in my head, like any company that employs me is actually more, they're in the more receiving end than me. I did not really know much then, but I was like, okay, any company that employs me, it's more of a blessing to them than me. You understand? You have to think high of yourself. If not, you're going to be discouraged. You need to, when applying to a job, you need to research about that particular organization. You need to research about that particular organization to know, because those are questions that are going to be asked in your interview. Let's
Mhm.
go into the interview process now. They're going to ask you your knowledge about the company. They're going to ask you about your knowledge about the company. They're going to, and one thing you need to find out is that you need to find out what area in data are they focused in. Is this organization focused in sports? Are they focused in marketing? Are they focused in advertising? What type of data is this organization focused in? so that when you are when you are on the interview, you know what you're talking about. You can even ask them questions. I noticed from my research that you actually in the advertising business, yeah, actually the advertising data, stuff like that. So I want to ask you a question: how does this look like? You get the opportunity when you research, you get the opportunity to actually ask questions that are relevant. You understand? You have the opportunity to ask questions that are relevant. And I think a lot of people, they have I see posts they make on Twitter. They'll be like, okay, comment your dream job or your dream company that you want to work in. If you have a dream job or a dream company or a dream role you want to work in, check for the JD, the job description. See what particular tools that particular job role is asking for, and start learning on it. Research about the company. What do they work on their day to day? What are their values? Stuff like that. You understand? Yeah. So I think I should go to the next question. Yeah. Okay. So another thing, please, will this live be available afterwards? Yes, it will be available on Spotify, on LinkedIn, Twitter, my YouTube channel. So please subscribe. And it's already available on Twitter because it's being recorded there right now. And also, I think everywhere, just everywhere, it's available everywhere. I think the next question we have is for Tina. So I know to use Power BI, but somehow I like Python coding over Power BI. It's just my preference, but I still want to be a data analyst. Can I be a data analyst by just knowing SQL and Python?
Okay, so now the thing is this, right?
Yeah,
When you look at the tools required as a data analyst, if you go through every job description or most job descriptions, you likely
yeah,
come across the need for a visualization tool, either Power
yeah,
BI or Tableau or Looker. Well, there must be one visualization tool, right? So
yes,
it's actually very, very, very important. You might go to organizations where maybe what they just use is Excel, or what they
yeah,
just use is SQL and Python. But you might actually, it's actually very important that a visualization tool is in your tool stack as a data
yeah,
analyst. So if you're looking to actually pursue a data analytics career, I think it's something that you would want to have or you should have in your tool stack. So it's inevitable. It's kind of like inevitable. You can't avoid it. It's something that you need
yeah,
to actually pick up. And since you already know how to use it, it's actually
yes,
perfect. So, but then depending on the organization you work and depending on what preferences, you see, the thing with tools is this, right?
yeah,
Most time it depends on the problem you are trying to solve. There are particular kind of problems you're trying to solve, and you might not even need Power BI. What you might
yeah,
just need is your SQL, right? So I think it
yes,
all depends on the problem that you're trying to solve. So the
yeah,
problem in whatever organization you might find yourself might just be looking to use SQL and Python to solve that problem. So there will not be any need for knowing Power BI or using Power BI. But since you know it,
yeah,
it's actually very, very, very great because it's important. You can't avoid.
yeah,
You will really you can't actually avoid like not seeing
yes,
the need for a visualization to on job application. So I think it's very important that you know that and also have that at the back of your mind. But also know that it's basically, as data analysts, what we basically do is we are problem solvers, right? So it's
yeah, true.
basically dependent, the tool you would use is dependent on the problem you're trying
Yeah,
to solve. So I hope that answers your question, and I hope that
yeah.
really helps. Mhm.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Tina. I think there's one question I want to ask you is last year, before I say next year, we are still, we are still in 2023. So last year, I noticed that you wrote the Microsoft Azure Data Fundamental, and I think Microsoft Azure Data. I want to
Yeah.
ask you, what was your experience like writing the Microsoft Azure Data, and why did you pick up Microsoft Azure Data?
Okay, so I think I was privileged to get a lot of opportunities when I started out my career in data. I got this
Yeah,
training by Stanbic IBTC where I had to learn
yeah,
Azure portal and the rest,
Okay.
database and how to manage databases and all those things. So
Yeah.
I at the end of that program, I needed to take a certification exam, which was the Azure Database Administrator certification exam. But
Yeah.
prior to that, right, I didn't want to just go blindly because that was an associate exam. It was not the
Yeah.
fundamentals exam, and you know
Yes.
how associate exams are, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Different.
I
Yeah.
took
Harder.
the data. For me, the data exam was kind of like I was testing the waters, but I didn't
Yes.
know what I was going to meet in the because
Okay.
I took that as a I took it as a test center. So I didn't know
Yeah.
what I was going to meet. See, when you see
Okay.
anybody that's written a Microsoft exam and passed it, please you need to give them their flowers because
Yeah.
it's not a like do you know what it means to be writing an exam where you are being monitored like the entire
Yeah.
1 hour plus hours? Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. For somebody like me that's always very anxious when it comes to exam, like my
Yes.
anxiety is over the it
Yeah.
was crazy. It was a very crazy experience, right? I was in the exam and I did not even know what I was doing there. I didn't even know I had prepared, obviously. I had gone through materials
Yeah.
and everything. Like I'm coming to write this exam, but it was a
Yes.
really crazy experience. But in the end, it was
Yeah.
worth it. Like it actually
Yeah.
gave me some sort of boost, right? Because with that,
Okay.
I was able to take the associate exam and I scaled that as well. And
Yeah.
it's actually been very beautiful because I mentioned something earlier that there's a difference between certificates and certifications. Do you know what
Yeah.
it means when somebody looks at your profile and then you have
Yeah.
Microsoft certification? Oh, okay, this person
Yeah.
knows what they are doing. Like it gives some sort of boost, right? There's this
Yes.
sort of
True.
we'll call it levels to
Yeah.
it. There's that sort of the people will give it like people will give you some sort of
Your
respect that
accolades.
you're able
Yeah.
to take this particular exam. So for me, it was actually worth it in the end because I can boast of being a like calling myself Microsoft certified. So I think
Yeah.
that was just it for me. But it was a very crazy experience. Like it was actually looking back. It's funny
Yeah.
now, but then it wasn't. It
Yeah.
wasn't. So it was a beautiful experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. For me, I think I have anxiety too when writing exams, so I have to join so early. Like, let me say the exam is starting by 9 in the morning. I have to start preparing from 7. Like, I have my laptop, everything is set up, and then you know that when you are trying to connect to like snap your environment,
Environment.
you have to, yeah, you have to wait till a certain time before you can start doing that. So
Yes.
I have to make sure that I am calmed before I can start writing. I need to make sure that everything is working well because sometimes network will just feel like this or laptop will just go off.
That was that risk I wasn't willing to take. That's why I had to go to the test center. And it was crazy for me because at the test
Yeah,
center, they rejected my ID. So I had to go around looking for another, trying to get another ID and come back to them.
yeah,
So by then, I was already messed up. Like
yeah,
I didn't even think I was going to complete the exam. All I was just waiting for is
yeah.
let this exam just end. Let me stand up and be going home. I don't care if I pass or I fail, at least I was just testing the waters, right? So
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy. So
yeah.
I know how that must feel.
Yeah, and I think there's also one thing. There's one thing I love about Microsoft certifications is that they they have like the way they ask their questions is in a way that you have to have used the platform or the tool in order to have idea what that
Mhm.
answer is. You understand? It's like a case
Very
study
true.
or a solution you get. It's not like what is Power BI. You have different drop downs. You'll be like case study that a person who has used the tool will be able to understand.
Very
So,
true.
like, yeah, like you said, that being writing a Microsoft certification is definitely going to give you an accolade because people will be like, okay, you understand what you are doing because of the way the questions are based on. You get. So that's the
Hmm.
thing. Yeah. So I think someone has. Okay, this is not a question, but I learned Power BI without storytelling, and it always felt something was missing. After listening to you guys, it makes sense now. Okay. Thank you to
That's
Tina.
a good. That's a good feedback.
Yeah, so thank you
Good
to Tina
feedback.
for a wonderful explanation. I think we do not have any other question, and we have been on this call for almost an hour now. So I think I have another question to ask you, which is the last question. So what do you think? How can one get started in Microsoft Power BI and data?
Okay. I think one of the most important thing you've already mentioned that earlier on, which is actually looking for communities and joining communities. And
Yeah,
thankfully, Microsoft has an amazing community. Like the
yeah,
Microsoft community is actually, when it comes to Power BI, it's actually
yeah,
amazing. Fabric is Fabric community now, anyways,
yeah.
but
Microsoft
it's
Fabric.
actually very, very amazing. So you get all the supports, even if you are having challenges and
Yeah,
everything. But if you're looking to start into data, there's the notion that you go from the known to the unknown. Everybody's familiar with
yeah,
Microsoft Excel. So it's you start with Microsoft Excel, you learn your
yeah,
SQL, move to a visualization tool. Power BI is what I always recommend. That is what I work
yeah,
with. It's been actually very seamless. I explained that and I talked about that earlier on. And
yeah.
then you go to Python, right? That's like the either Python or R. So one of Python
Yes,
or R, that is you need to learn a programming tool as well. So it's one of those
yeah,
languages that you actually need to pick up. So with all of
yeah,
all these tools, once you've learned all of all these tools, you're good to go. You can start working on projects. I always advise, once you learn
yeah.
one, build a project. Once you learn
Yes,
another one,
true.
build a project. Don't just start learning and learning everything. By the time you learn
Yeah,
everything at a go, when you want to build an Excel project, you find out that you start relearning the course entirely.
yeah,
But it's the
yes,
project that would let you understand if you
yeah,
actually know this thing or you don't know this thing. So it's actually very,
yeah,
very important that you work on
yes,
projects while you're actually learning whatever you want to do. And another very important thing, if you're looking to just start out, please share your journey. Don't go on this journey alone.
yeah,
It's actually a very, very strenuous and stressful
sure.
one, and you need all the support you can
Yeah,
get.
very true.
The
Yeah,
beautiful data community online.
yeah,
You can share your story on LinkedIn, network with a lot of data
yes,
professionals, and just go ahead, search data professionals, and start, connecting with them and all of that. So you belong to that particular community. I think one of the things that
yeah,
made my journey very easy for me too was because I belonged to an amazing community that was actually
yes,
there to support. They were
yeah,
organizing meetups from time to time. They'll teach you all the
yeah,
things you need to know to start out the career in data. So all of
yeah,
those things were very, very, very helpful. So if you're looking to start out, please don't don't do it alone. And at
yeah,
that point, it gets very difficult. Like, in fact, you start feeling like a fraud. You feel like, oh, you've been learning
yeah.
this thing for a
Imposter
very,
syndrome.
and
Yeah,
you don't know anything about it. Or maybe you come online, somebody's posting their project, and probably you even started the same time with that person, and you just look at yourself like, oh, what are you even doing? And like, there's
yeah,
sometimes it gets that tough, right? You don't want,
yes,
that is the moment to actually go hard. Like, you don't want to give up. I always had, like,
yeah,
no matter what, no matter how difficult it gets,
yeah.
please
Continue,
don't give
continue
up.
moving. Yeah,
Don't give up.
and
Like, push,
yeah,
talk to somebody. If it's that bad, just talk to somebody. Look for some. You need accountability partners to go on that journey
yes,
with you. So that is, it's not just about the learning the tools, picking the tools. There are other things
yeah,
that you need, especially in this social media era, right? That's what I always
yeah,
advise. I'm an advocate for building in public. I always advise people,
yes,
like, come online, talk about whatever you are doing. People would not know unless you
yeah.
tell them. That is the
Unless you
thing.
tell
I
them,
know
yeah,
Rachel as
true,
a
very
Power
true.
Platform person because I've seen her talk about Power Platform. Rachel knows me as a
Yeah,
data analyst because
yeah,
I'm very vocal about data analytics. So that's just
yes,
how it is. Whenever somebody wants to think of a data professional, they should be thinking you. That is why you need to
yeah,
share your story. That is why you need to talk about your progress online. LinkedIn is
sure,
a powerful platform. Twitter is there. Please don't
yeah,
keep your projects in your laptop. So I think
yeah,
that's the major thing I would like to share for anybody that is trying to start out in data or pick
yeah,
Power BI too. Oh,
yeah.
one more thing. I wanted to
And
just say,
okay,
when it comes to learning Power BI, right? People will
yeah.
tell you that it's very difficult. My dear, don't listen to them. Here's
Yeah,
what
so
I
very
want.
true. A lot of people say things like that. Even
Practice,
apart from
practice,
Power BI, other
practice.
tools.
The more darks you write, the more you get better at it. So
Yeah,
please keep practicing. That is how to
yeah,
learn something. That's how to get better at something. So if you're
yeah,
starting out learning
true.
Power BI, learn, just be ready to practice. You get better at it.
Yeah, yeah. And one other thing too, don't compare yourself with anybody. It's your own journey. You understand? You don't have to compare yourself. Keep striving, keep moving forward, keep learning, and keep building. You're definitely going to get there. You understand? And one other thing too to mention is that Tina has a training program that you can apply for. So Tina, if you can tell us about it so that if
Yes,
anybody
yes.
wants to
So
join, they can
just
join.
a brief story into the
Yeah,
program, right? I started
yeah,
teaching Power BI as a way to actually reiterate that I actually particularly know this tool. And over
yeah,
throughout this year, I started training people in Power BI this year, and throughout this year, I think I'm on the fourth cohort now. I've trained
yeah,
a lot of persons using the tool, and it's totally beginner friendly. If you want to learn how to
yes.
use Power BI, the next cohort is starting next weekend. Is around
Okay.
5K, $30, and
Yeah,
it's very, very beginner friendly. I've gotten a lot of
yeah,
reviews, even people that are data analysts and do not like building dashboards, but they've been
yeah,
able to attend that boot camps, and they've actually, they've attended that boot camp and had a new and different perspective towards the Power BI tool. So
yeah,
I have a way of simplifying maybe the hardest concepts into like
yes,
in the minimum way, right? So that
yeah,
people get to understand. So even if you've not worked with data before,
yeah,
it's a good place to start. It's actually a good place to start.
yeah. I've seen so
So if
many
you want to
reviews online.
join
Yeah,
up,
it's amazing.
I'll tell Rachel to link my social media profile, so you can just hit me up on social media, and
Yeah,
then we take it from there.
yeah. And concerning the reviews, I've seen so many reviews online where they are tagging Tina. Like, wow, this is amazing. The reviews are amazing. And Tina, you're doing such a good job. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. So, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and continue listening to the next
I
podcast.
had an amazing time. I can't believe it's over. It was so
Bye,
interesting.
everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Bye, everyone.
thank you. Bye. Okay.